now 7 p.m., Tuesday, December 4th, 2018. I'd like to call the Selectmen's meeting to order at the Sutton Town Hall. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, before I go into the public forum, I would ask if we could have a moment of silence for the passing of Arthur Joseph Remillard, Jr. Today, he would have been 88 years old. And the reason why I mention this is he made generous donations to places of interest in the town of Sutton that we are all so grateful for. Thank you. Next would be public forum, limited to 5 minutes per topic. Discussion or comments about town employees or agency members shall be avoided so as not to violate individuals' rights. Anyone here for public forum? The next would be, on the agenda, would be the minutes of the Board of Selectmen for November 13th, 2018.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to accept the minutes for our November 13th meeting as presented.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Next would be agenda, a public hearing, would be a poll hearing on West Sutton Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As posted in the November 15th, 2018 Millbury Sutton Chronicle, public hearing notice. Did we need to close the meeting?
No, you're good.
In accordance with provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 166, Section 22, you are hereby notified that a public hearing will be held at 7:00 p.m. on Tuesday, December 4th, 2018, in the Sutton Town Hall upon petition from National Grid for permission to relocate 2 JO poles on West Sutton Road beginning at a point approximately 1,067 feet north of the center line of the intersection of West Sutton Road and Welsh Road, and continuing approximately 10 feet and 25 inches in a northerly direction. National Grid to replace poles 66 and 67 and relocate poles 66 25 feet north of its present location and relocate poles 67 10 feet north of its present location to allow for repair on dam and culvert located on West Sutton Road. Also, for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in or above the intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as the petitioner desires for distributing purposes. Plan file herewith marked number 268-01467, approved by Fire, Highway, and Police.
And I'll open up the public hearing, and we have a representative here from National Grid. Would you please identify yourself and your position?
My name's Merrill Harvey. I work for National Grid. That was pretty self-explanatory. The state is asking us to move 2 of these poles. They have 2 culverts that are feeding that pond across the street on West Sutton Road, now a little ways up from Hutchinson Road. And they want to repair all those dams. I think you guys probably all know the project that they have going on there. And so these 2 poles, they asked us to move them, slightly both in a northerly direction so they can either reroute those culverts or repair them and have enough room to put their equipment in there and stuff. It's pretty simple.
And is anyone from the public? And I'll open up for discussion. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really have no questions or comments.
Yeah, those are existing poles, by the way. We're just gonna put 2 new ones where the new location will be and then remove the old ones later. No underground, by the way, on these, all overhead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I have nothing to add, no questions. I see it's signed off on by, the chiefs, so I'm okay. Thank you.
Wendy?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
And Jonathan?
Nothing.
And I concur with my colleagues. And we have a motion on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded, and we have a motion to be read. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to make a motion to approve poll hearing number 26801467 from National Grid as advertised in the November 15th, 2018 Millbury Sutton Chronicle.
Second?
Motion been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you as always.
Next on the agenda, we have MRA Sports Update. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alex Rogolinski's here from MRA to talk about last year's time at the Marion's Camp and to look forward to this summer's plans for the MRA Triathlon Group. So, Alex, turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. I just want to thank the town and the Sutton Fire and Police Department for their support in the races over the years. So for this past year, we just had one race, so we ended up canceling the longer race, which was the Blackstone Valley Olympic. Just the registration numbers were down as we decided to cut our losses earlier in the summer for that one. But the summer solstice, that's kind of been the staple since year one here. So 6 successive years so far with that race, and hopefully many more. So we had just under 200 participants this past year, right? So we're happy to present checks to Jim today for the food pantry for $600 and to the town of Sutton for $975 for donations for letting us use the camp down there and having another successful year. So it was great, good events down there. Any questions at all about this past year's events?
I'll open up to the board. Alex, Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alex, welcome.
Thanks,
Thank you. We appreciate every year that you come by and give us an update on how things have gone. It was, I guess, disappointing to hear that you had to cancel the longer race. Maybe that just points to the level of fitness that we have overall. I don't know. But, I mean, I'm sure that was disappointing, but overall, you're still satisfied with the facilities and the first race? And
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Look, the camp's looking great down there, so we're definitely excited to see how the lodge looks next summer. Right, so I know there's been a lot of active work down there. We haven't been down a couple months now, right? But I know they were actively working on it, so it'll be interesting to see how it progresses through the spring and what it looks like for next season. So the facilities are great. From a club perspective, we're down there probably 6 days a week in season doing our swimming, and a lot of folks station their cars down there, and after the swims they go out for runs or bikes around the area. So it's been a great facility for the club and of course for the races too. And just the longer race, it's a much more expensive race, covering almost 25 miles on the roads, and so it's expensive to put on from that point. And being the longer distance, just in the industry, you just don't have as much participation at that distance. So it was a tough decision, right? But it was one that we've struggled with the last couple of years, and so we tried moving the dates and hoping that would work, and just didn't work out in our favor for that point.
So over the course of years, we've talked about your partnership with the community and how everything's gone, and I think that's pretty well documented at this point. I think last time you were here, you asked, just for community support, get out and cheer and just to have people come out for the race. Is there anything else? I mean, are we anything else we can do within reason to help you out, or?
I think it's great. You guys have been nothing but supportive over the years. Just anything word of mouth is great, especially in this industry, right? And over the years, we've definitely seen an increase of Sutton residents, right? And majority of the racers are from the immediate towns around this area. So it's definitely become a local favorite on a lot of calendars. And being the Friday night event, it's very unique, right? So we do a couple of expos throughout the year, and random people from from Boston, New Hampshire, Vermont, right? They're like, oh, I've heard about this race, and they're coming down for, start the long weekend off in the summer. So it's been a great way to do it. So I would just keep doing what you're doing. If not, tell some more friends. And Dave, there's always a spot on a relay team out there for you, right? So.
We'll have to sign up as a group. Well, thank you anyway. Welcome back, and
Thanks.
I'm glad at least this race is going well. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alex, as Dave said, welcome back. It's always a pleasure seeing you attend, and it's nice to hear that at least one of the two events went off pretty well. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd mentioned with the second one, you would change the calendar up a little bit. I don't recall, did you make it earlier in the year or later in the year?
We pushed it out. So historically, the Blackstone Valley race was end of July, early August. So we thought just the lower numbers we've had, the middle of the summer, that was a lot of other competition in the marketplace, so we pushed it out to mid-September this year, right? So just after Labor Day, when a lot of the other races kind of drop off and there's not a lot of late season races. So we thought with lack of competition that would help, but there's probably a reason why there's not many races after New Year's. So, or sorry, after Labor Day, I mean, right?
Are you looking to next year when you come back before us? Are you going to be looking to try 2 events again?
No, I think we're just going to stick with the summer solstice, right? It's kind of tried and true from that point. So it's good numbers. It kind of supports itself. So I think we have some, and just life is taken over too. My kids are getting a little bit older, right? As well as the folks who help me out with the races, right? So we have some other folks who have some other interests in some other races that we may try to lend a helping hand to their point of view, but we won't be taking lead on some of those new races, right? So we're definitely every year we kind of look at our race calendar, and we have races starting on New Year's Day in Whitensville, all the way till just 3 weeks ago in Upton State Forest, right? So it's a long season. So every year we kind of take a critical eye and make sure the races are healthy from that perspective. So,
Excellent. Well, at the very least, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad you're looking forward to coming back to Sutton next summer, and hopefully we can get a little wave behind you,
Yeah.
and maybe get a couple more signups locally, like Dave, and you'll have another wonderful event.
thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, as a prior racer, it's an incredible event. I look forward to it, and I just really encourage the community to come out, because you'd be surprised how exciting it can become, and I hope people maybe try it that didn't think they could
Yeah.
before. It's definitely attainable, trust me. So please do it. Thank you for all your efforts, and look forward to next year.
Thanks, Wendy.
Jonathan?
Yes, thank you, and I really appreciate that we have events like this in town, and I think it's important for the townspeople to support these type of events. And I just think it makes for a better community and more activity. So thank you for choosing Sutton and continuing to come here.
Thanks.
I think the bar has been set, Alex, that you know what we expect of you, and what you've done is volumes. And we like to have you here in town because you treat this Sutton like it's your town.
Thank you.
So we thank you for that. And to me, there's been no disruptions, and it's very well supportive, and we wish you to come back.
Good. Thank you. On that topic then, for 2019, so we'd like to seek approval for Friday, June 21st for the race. So it's a little closer to the solstice. This year we had it earlier June. So looking for getting back to June 21st. Nothing else really different from years past, right? It'll be the 7th annual, all right? So our sellout capacity is 228, right? So we expect to have around, hopefully, that 225 number. So nothing has really changed from that point, right? So I know the camp is open at that time, right? It's usually open the week earlier, but we'll work closely with the recreation department as far as coordinating porta potties and buoys and removals and putting those back and all those kind of things, so.
And we'll, in the meantime, work on all the appropriate licenses and approvals and the list of paperwork that we usually 10, 11 items long, liability waivers, et cetera, that we get from Alex and the MRA group. So everything's in order prior to the event.
So we don't really need a vote on this?
No.
Right. Okay. Well, sounds like you got your approval then.
Perfect. Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks for coming out.
Wendy, hopefully we'll see you again this year, huh?
Yeah, there you go.
Be careful what you wish for.
So Jim, here's 2 checks for you.
You gotta pose.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good holiday.
You too.
Merry Christmas.
Next would be the town manager's update. Jim?
Actually,
Oh, I skipped to Wendy. I was gonna go right by you.
It would have
this
been
is
fine. Thank
Wendy's
you.
big opportunity.
2019 license renewals.
Okay, so settle in, folks.
Mr. Chairman, before the clerk reads them, I just want to say all the licenses are in order. The inspections for all the alcohol establishments went off with John Kuchar and Matt Belcito conducting those inspections, and so everything's in order and ready to be approved. Sorry, Wendy.
Wendy?
Thank you so much. The following licenses have been renewed for the year 2019. Class 1, Environmental Equipment Sales and Service. Class 2, Bex. Brian's Automotive Service. Brown Automotive. Environmental Equipment Sales and Service. Frank's Auto Sales. Hampton Motor Sales. J.D. Byrider. Lapham's Auto. Myers Trust. P.T. Watts Incorporated. Progressive Auto. Vinnie's Automotive. Sutton Auto LLC. 122 Worcester Providence Turnpike LLC, also known as John's Automotive. Class 3, Scott Cars Auto Shack, Myers Trust. Catering license, 3D's Catering. Lodging house, Putnam Hill Bed and Breakfast. Innkeeper's license, Econo Lodge. Common victualler, Essex Golf Group, doing business as Blackstone National Golf Club. Brickstone Kitchen. Crossroads Variety. Dudley Gender and American Legion, post number 414. Dunkin' Donuts inside Extra Mart. Five Guys Hamburgers. Jim's Pizza. King's Campground Country Store. KP's Breakfast and Lunch. Market 32, Price Chopper. Nick's Country Market. Old Holbrook Place. Peking Garden. PV Food and Beverage. Schultz's Place. Starbucks Corporation. Sutton Center Country Store. Sutton Falls Camping Area. Sutton Extra Mart locations at 27 and 157 Worcester Providence Turnpike. Tony's Sutton Pizza. Amusement devices. Sutton Falls Campground. All alcohol liquor license for restaurants. Brickstone Kitchen. Essex Golf Group, doing business as Blackstone National Golf Club. PV Food and Beverage. Tony's Sutton Pizza. Veterans Club All Alcohol, Dudley Gender and American Post number 414. All alcohol liquor license for package stores. Crossroads Variety, Market 32, Price Chopper. Wine and malt beverages liquor licenses, retail. King's Campground, Nick's Country Market. Sutton Center Country Store, Valancourt Folk Art. Music and Dance, Dudley Gendron, American Legion, post number 414, PV Food and Beverage. Entertainment by DJ Seasonal, Essex Golf Group, doing business as Blackstone National Golf Club, King's Campground.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The list has been read. Is a comment from the board?
No real comments other than, we appreciate that everyone has responded appropriately and gotten their licenses in on time. In the past, that's, occasionally been an issue, and it's just a pain to track down and straighten out. So the cooperation of the various license holders is appreciated.
And I'd like to add that a special thanks to Debbie, because I know she does a lot of work in the licensure department, so thank you, Debbie, for all that you do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you again, Debbie, and to John Kuchar and Matt Stencil for undertaking this not small job, and look forward to more business being done in the town.
Jonathan?
No, it's just good to see that everything's in order and ready to go and there's no issues, so.
And I agree with all that, and I know that her name was mentioned, but there's a big tribute to Debbie for there's a lot of work putting those packets together and putting that out, and her desk downstairs is loaded right now to do the same thing, and she's very meticulous, and we thank her for that. And now there's a motion on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion as read. I'd like to make a motion to approve as read the 2019 license renewals in the town of Sutton.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And now, Jim, the town manager's update.
Meeting's moving along at a rapid pace here. Don't want to set this trend of, beating the police station building committee meeting.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's impossible. A couple of updates for the board. The tax rate setting process, I've been communicating with the board over the last couple weeks. Prior to a press conference last week, I presented the LA 5 certification. Essentially, we had to reduce the tax rate from 1653 down to 1652. So it was a change in the excess levy capacity from, many, I think 5,000 or 6,000 down to $591.27. So a lot of that is just manipulation of the rate and everything else. But the positive news is that the tax rate comes down by a penny, and the board has already signed that certification, and it's in process now. The Board of Health smoking regulations. The Sutton Board of Health has voted in conjunction with the state to restrict the sale of tobacco products and nicotine to anyone under the age of 21. This goes into effect on January 1st. Many of the surrounding communities have also adopted the state law. If we didn't adopt the state law, then it would be eventually 21 years of age. It would be in FY19, you'd be 19 years of age to be able to buy tobacco and nicotine products. In 2020, you'd be 20 years of age. In 2021, you'd be 20. So rather than the tiered approach to get there, the Board of Health decided to just make that change. And considering what the surrounding communities were all adopting this, they decided it was in the best interest of the town to adopt the same regulations. MassWorks infrastructure program on Tuesday, November 27th. The town hosted the Lieutenant Governor for a MassWorks grant announcement. The town received $2,250,000 to install a natural gas line that will serve Prime Metals in Gilmore Drive Industrial Park. A lot of folks were involved with this project, but none more important than Jen Hager. Jen coordinated a lot of this process. We had a previous MassWorks submission in 2013 when we were in the running to get Access TCA from Northbridge. That ended up falling through, as did the grant. If Access TCA did decide to come here, but we probably would have received the grant back in 2013. So this is definitely a positive. In discussions with Prime Metals, they plan on holding a groundbreaking within the next month or two. So it's imminent, and it is going to start. The closing on the property took place a couple weeks ago. So everything's moving in the right direction. After a summer of sort of ups and downs that we've been through, I think it's going to happen. And really, I'd like to thank Jen. She goes above and beyond. And I'm thinking her title should be sort of Planning and Economic Development Director for all of her economic development work that she does for the town. Road improvements on Dudley Marble and Harbeck is almost complete. The cost is $325,425. We have an additional $9,000 in police detail costs. All of these costs are reimbursable through the Chapter 90 program. The total distance reconstructed is 6,500 linear feet or 1.2 miles. The Marble Harbeck intersection was a 3-foot radius with a 50% slope. It is now a 5-foot radius and a 5% slope. And that's really the redesign of that hill that you go over to get onto Harbeck from Marble. Now it's a smoother transition onto that roadway. So that was a significant change in the roadway. Matt Stencil did a lot of this work, design work, and J.H. Lynch did the construction. In the future, Matt is looking to, at Central Turnpike from Fuller Road to 146 for paving. The approximate cost is $650,000. We are looking at the capital stabilization fund to do that work. And if things work out, we are looking at that construction maybe in the summer and fall of 2019. So that's a positive transition. The Town Hall Christmas Luncheon will be held Tuesday, December 18th at 12 noon at Sutton Town Hall, up in this room. We'd like to close Town Hall as we have in previous years from like 11:45 to 1:15, roughly, to give everybody the opportunity to come up and enjoy the festivities and the food. We're going to have the same spread that we had last year, Battalion, and it should be a nice showing from all the department heads and people who have work with the town of Sutton. The Jingle Jaunt road race will be held Saturday, December 8th at 10:30 a.m. And Howie Bottomley is coordinating that whole thing. One other update that's not on this that I wanted to talk about. This last weekend was Chain of Lights. It was a great event. Nice, beautiful weather, and everything pretty much went off without a hitch. The one hiccup we had was up at Whittier Farms that they had a beer cart that was serving samples free of charge at the entrance into the farm, right along the way to get into the farm to purchase macaroni and cheese, which we did, and other nice offerings. And during the week previously, we had been in discussion through emails with Bill Fuller from a local, a licensed individual bartending service of New England, regarding the necessity for a one-day beer and wine license for this event. Eventually, Bill Fuller contacted the Whittiers, and they decided to not go forward with the one-day beer and wine license. That was the last we heard from Bill Fuller, and I think that was Thursday prior to the event. And then went up there on Saturday, and there was a Purgatory beer cart, essentially, that was at the entrance to the store. So it was kind of confusing. In speaking with Wayne Whittier, he wasn't aware of the requirement of, he thought that if you offered samples free of charge, that it was allowed. I contacted the ABCC Executive Director, Ralph Sacramone, and he informed us that regardless, you need a one-day beer and wine license from the local licensing authority, regardless. Samples are not allowed under the state ABCC. You need to charge a nominal fee, so it's 50 cents or $1 for a sample. And the area should be set aside from the entrance into the store. It should be cordoned off into a special area so it's not accessible by children and everything else. And if you want to, a sample or purchase a beer, then you would go to the special section and be able to do that. I feel that, a lot of misunderstandings took place with this. I think Purgatory Beer is the one that is most responsible, as they are a licensed alcohol establishment in the town of Northbridge. They should have been able to advise the Whittiers of the rules and regulations under Chapter 138, Section 14 and 15, and they should know those laws. I don't expect a family farmer to understand alcohol regulations and have contact with the ABCC. That's not his role. He relies on vendors, et cetera, to provide this advice. I think that the vendor advised the Whittiers that it's okay to give free samples. We're not charging. They should have known. They should have contacted the ABCC. They should have known the regulations. I put most of the culpability on them. We can clearly correct this event for next year's Chain of Lights. We've already sent out an email to the coordinating group for Chain of Lights. We've heard back from them. They are interested in having a meeting with the Board of Selectmen at some point in January to regroup and get on top of all of these issues for next year's Chain of Lights, so we don't make these errors going forward. So it happened. It's just, it is what it is. It's unfortunate. I don't think any situations occurred as a result. I don't think there was any drunkenness, any impropriety going on. It's just there were rules that should have been followed that weren't followed, and it will be corrected for next year. We will be on top of it. So right now, it's just an update for the board and ultimately for the board's consideration. That's all I have for updates, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for the update, Jim. On the positive side of things, I think we were all in attendance at the MassWorks presentation that the Lieutenant Governor was at. She gave a very nice presentation. As she said, she gets to do the fun stuff. When she shows up, there's usually a check involved. Somebody at that meeting said that in the whole time this MassWorks program has been in place, this is the second largest award that's been granted in central Massachusetts. And I think that's a testament to the value of this project, at least in the eyes of the people that granted the money or granted the grant. So it's pretty exciting to have this come to town. I think Jen coordinated a meeting of local businesses that are sort of in the line of more or less of the new gas line, and there was, as we've talked about, there was just an awful lot of participation around that, and I think this has the opportunity to serve a number of businesses beyond prime metals in this area. So I think it's really an important economic boost for the region there. So it's exciting to know that it's coming. And you've already mentioned it, but the coordination of people to bring this together that Jen orchestrated is really impressive. She is, like she always does with these kinds of issues, she immerses herself in the details to understand who the players are and what's important to get it done, and has a way of identifying and pulling the right strings. And obviously, you see it come to fruition. And we got a lot of support from our representatives around. We certainly appreciate that, but absolutely great work from Jen. So you really can't say it enough. Great work from Matt. I think you're going to make an awful lot of people happy to talk about paving Central Turnpike. So the work up on Marble where they were is great, but it's also a little less traveled and not as obvious to people. That work on Central Turnpike, I think, obviously gets really significant amounts of travel. And I don't know about the rest of you, but when I'm coming down Central Turnpike, I'm driving on the wrong lane when there's nobody coming the other way to stay away from some of those areas. So it's a place where work is really necessary, and so I think putting some resources into that area is the right thing to do. So certainly, as always, support the Christmas lunch. It's a lot of fun up here. I have to check my calendar. Usually the issue is whether we have something at work the same day. But
You're local. Come on.
That's true. I am close by, so I should be able to do that. Chain of lights, I guess, is two ways of looking at it. It was a great day. The weather was nice. I feel bad for the poor folks in Millbury who had to deal with rain the next day. It seemed like really good participation. I am really disappointed about this issue at Whittier's. It's hard for me to fathom how not we the town, how the rules that are in place would have been overlooked in this case. I feel like the rules are there for a reason, and it's pretty disappointing to see that they were ignored in this case. That's how I see it. And so, I don't know what beyond this kind of discussion needs to occur, but I certainly think we need to be talking about it publicly, and I suspect we're going to hear some further disappointment around this board. I'll be interested to hear that, but that's my opinion. I think we were let down by this. This board had no opportunity to discuss the implications of having alcohol served at Chain of Lights. You know, this is just my opinion. I've not talked to anybody here about this, but I personally don't think Chain of Lights is an event where I think alcohol should be served. But I was given no opportunity to weigh in on that. And it's a community event that, you know, it's a Christmas event, it's a family event, and you know, I'm not sure what else to say. I just feel pretty let down in this circumstance. So I appreciate that the Chain of Lights Committee wants to come before us and talk about it. I think that's the right thing to do, and I think you know, it's a good opportunity for healthy discussion. So, but thank you for bringing it up. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dave. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wonderful update, Jim, as always. Lots of good stuff. Tax rate, that's always a good thing. The new smoking regulations, I don't know. I mean, I understand, because I went downstairs and I talked to Cheryl before I came upstairs, that this came down from Beacon Hill, and it was kind of last minute, and it was kind of foisted upon us to that degree that a decision had to be made. But again, I don't know. I understand the motivation behind it, but I question it, because to me, the people who are above 18 currently, they have a right to engage in a lawful sale, and to legislatively remove the right subjectively, I don't necessarily know if that's the right thing to do. That doesn't behoove us as a town, though, from adhering to the decision made by Beacon Hill. But if I did have questions, you know, I'd focus it the Boston way. But I thank the Board of Health, obviously, for making a quick decision in light of the situation. The Mass Work grant presentation, that was wonderful. Before I obviously give thanks to Jen, because without her, this would not have occurred. I would like to quickly throw a quick thanks to Michelle and the staff down the Senior Center for hosting, because it was a wonderful venue. I think it was a great location. The fact that it was right around the corner from Gilmore Drive was wonderful. The fact that the Lieutenant Governor came out with her staff, and Ryan Fatman came, and it was a nice event. It was nice to see. And of course, there's Jen.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say other than the reality that this would not have happened, that we would not have this wonderful new community partner coming to Sutton without all of the work that she did. From last January, when she first got the call, to putting everything in place so we could have the special town meeting, to working with the state so we can get the TIF, and the list goes on and on and on. But I will say this much. I did speak to the representatives of Prime Metals again, and they could do nothing else but sing her praises. So they understand our perspective as a town because of her. And of course, your work as well, Jim. So thank you to you both for making sure that we have a nice new business in town. That's
My
good.
job is to know when to take orders from Jen,
Yeah.
you know? It doesn't always happen, but
Right. Well, in this case, you did it
situations
well.
like this.
Yeah. 1.5 miles paving Dudley, Marble, and Harbreck. 1.5 miles, $325,000. That's a big money. That's a lot of money for not a long distance.
Right.
So hopefully enough people in the community that constantly complain about the conditions of the roads understand the reality of it. It costs a lot of dollars to just do paving. This doesn't include, you know, some parts in town where we have to completely reconstruct the road from the bed up.
Right.
So, you know, the fact that we're going to be able to use the capital plan to take some money out to address the paving on Central Turnpike, that's going to be good. But the reality is we're going to spend this money, and there's going to be other areas in town that we're not going to be able to get to. We have a lot of miles of road in this town, and not all of them are in pristine condition. So the thing that I would like to stress is patience. We're doing the best we can with limited resources. We're trying to think outside of the box, and I think using the Capital Stabilization Fund in this way is an example of that. So hopefully the residents can appreciate the work that you put in and Matt Stencil puts in to try to stretch every dollar, literally, to get as many miles as we can every single year. Christmas luncheon, I'll definitely be here. Jingle Jaunt, I will not be there. I don't see myself doing a 5K, but I did have a chance to talk to Howie, and he's very excited about it. So hopefully they have good weather, and the runners have a great time. As for the Whittiers, I did do my due diligence, and I happened to stop by as I do every Tuesday and Thursday to pick up my milk. And I did have a conversation with Wayne. And there definitely was miscommunication and misunderstanding. And as you said, I think it's more on Purgatory than on anybody else. Because after speaking with them, I think the original idea was to get Wormtown Brewery to come in and sell. And that's where the discussion initially went, and that was the decision when it seemed to be too much, that they weren't gonna sell. They were gonna make a beer tent and all the rest. I think the Chain of Lights put Purgatory in contact with Whittier's, and again, I think if we're gonna lay a little more blame beyond Purgatory, we might have to look at the Chain of Lights Committee, because I'm gonna have to agree with Dave. This is a family event, and I understand that we have a new leadership team, and they're trying to think of new ways to reinvent the wheel, but I think the wheel works pretty well. So I look forward to them coming in January, and I look forward to having a conversation. But I think I would be inclined, as Dave alluded to as well, is to kind of say in the future, yeah, I don't think we necessarily need alcohol. And it's a shame, because I know Purgatory Brewers, the owners live in town. And so it has nothing to do with them. They have a wonderful product. I just look at the totality of the event as a whole. It's families, it's little kids, it's enjoying Christmas time, and there's a time and a place for alcohol, and I don't necessarily know if this would be. Other than that, I don't really have anything else to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jesse. Wendy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Jim, as always. Well, with regard to the grant, obviously it's outstanding, but I really think it gives validity back to looking at the approval of the first TIF when people didn't know if it was really justified. I think we have a commercial partner now in town who's really invested in staying here, and this has really, cemented that bond. So it's incredible, and I would really love to pursue changing Jen's title, because I think what she's doing is not just planning. She's growing the town commercially and helping with our tax infrastructure, so I would really like to look into that more and, see what we can do about that. With regard to the Dudley Road, wow, I've driven over it, and the underside of my car is much happier, and I feel much safer driving on it, and I certainly look forward to Central Turnpike. So, much like you, I cringe that I know off the record that I may be violating motor vehicle regulations, but there's nowhere else to go. So I really look forward to that. Jingle John, Howie does an incredible job with so many things in town, and this is one of them. So I don't want to neglect to really thank him for the time that he volunteers to put in here. Chain of Lights was incredible, as always, one of my favorite days of the year here in town. I agree, I don't think alcohol is necessary at this holiday family event, and I'm curious where the miscommunication came in. I've been sort of trying to do my own research on that. It's unfortunate. Everyone in town is pretty well educated on this board and, coming for approval, and I don't want to see that missed again in the future. But I'm glad that, everybody's right on top of it now, and I do look forward to investigating options going forward. But
Thank
that's
you,
all I
Wendy.
have for this evening. Thank you.
Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with the MassWorks infrastructure program, again, working with Jen over the last few years is, on the planning, when I've been on the planning board, I've experienced her, how great she is and how much effort she puts into it, how she prepares the board, and the amount of work that goes into beyond just the work she does, especially around the economic development, is really key. And having been, it was kind of great to see kind of this end of it when I was on the planning board. I was able to go through the site plan process and know in detail what went through the process to get them approved, and so that we can be at this step right now. But again, Jen does do amazing work, and it's just is a really good thing for Sutton. Yeah. So as far as the road improvements, I haven't had a chance to drive on the new section of road yet, so I'm looking forward to that. And it was pretty bad, and especially since Turnpike, I just drove on it tonight, coming home from work, and I am definitely looking forward to that update. As far as the Jingle Jaunt, I'm excited that that continues to go on. I was planning on running it this year, and I since hurt my knee about a month or so ago, and probably won't be able to run. But I would definitely love to do that at some point. As far as the chain of lights, definitely want to get to the bottom of the miscommunication and make sure that we deal with that. I think if this was a local brewery that was in town and they were to do something, I'd probably be open. But where this is just someone coming from out of town, I think this is an event that is definitely family oriented. So not so keen on maybe continuing this type of tradition. But like I said, if it was like a brewery located in town, I'd probably have a different perspective because they're trying to be a part of the festivities. But so I'd definitely be interested in uncovering the miscommunication and what happened.
Yeah, that meeting in January would be helpful to all of us, I think.
Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Jim, thank you for a wonderful update. There's a lot of information there in regards to the big grant, the prime metals. That's huge, and everyone spoke about it, and I don't want to be redundant, but Jen's efforts to form a partnership with the town and them, it speaks volumes. We can't appreciate everything that she's done. She's just right out there. She's a go-getter, and she knows the right people and everything. And I do thank the Baker-Polito administration for doing something for Sutton here. And if that's the second largest grant in the state of Massachusetts, that speaks volumes to what we have in place in this town. And everything else pretty much comes in order. But I would like to speak about the chain of lights. And for one, being the chairman of this board, I am not mad, but I am very disappointed that Whittier Farms had this event at the front of their doorstep to the entrance of their place. I take a lot of pride of being one of 5 people who signed the licenses here. So I feel kind of responsible that we've tried to educate all of the people that go for different types of alcohol requests in this town, that they have to follow our procedures. And we're straight on with everybody, from tip servers to cordoned off areas where you have to be, to identifications, and to notices, and how many days. And we're a favorable board. We like to have business come into this town. We like to do this type of stuff. We've just gone through this process with another business establishment, but they did the right thing. And of course, they got their license approved, and they had a wonderful event. Now, I'm going to go back into my police work a little bit, and because it's some type of a picture that I like to paint. And back in the days of police work, that if you rob the bank, and you're in the bank, and you run out the door with the money, the guy that's driving the car, he's convicted, he's charged with the same crime. So I will put a lot of onus on Purgatory Brewery. But I think that the Whittiers, because of what happened before Purgatory Brewery, when William Fuller, who had a state license from the state caterer and license holder bartending service of New England, once he was educated and he knew there wasn't enough time to fill out a separate form, to come in and have a hearing with this board, and to be granted a one-day permit for then someone, and I don't know who. I don't know where the blame goes from there. but to have Purgatory Brewery come in and set up and have free samples under the laws of 138. Those laws are there for everyone in this Commonwealth and everyone in these local boards. And for them to do what they did and to give out free samples, and my knowledge is no IDs were checked, no area was cordoned off. The amount of alcohol in those cups succeeded the 2-ounce limit that's supposed to be in there. I am again troubled because it's a 1-day license from the town. The area sectioned off, as I said, not at the entrance gate, no free samples, there has to be a charge for that. No persons had IDs, people were coming out double-fisted. License is supposed to be visible for the public on display, and the samples with a fee no more than 2 ounces. I think it's all pretty much stated there, and I'm looking forward to our meeting in January. But I just want to reach out to each and every one of you. You all said a lot of the things that I really think make sense, because that's what type of a board we are. And we strive for perfection in a lot of the things that we do, because it's our liability also. We're the ones signing these licenses. But I will also say, as it's been brought up by all of you, yes, it's a chain of lights. It's been here for many towns. And many towns have trumped after Sutton, when it was set up with the Dave LaValleys and the Gary Valancourts and some of them, and there was only 2 people. People didn't even know about a tree lighting. People didn't even know about trolleys that were coming in. And Jesse, all your hard work over there, coordinating a lot of this stuff. It is a family affair. And to have alcohol there or anywhere else in our town on that day, I don't think that's the message that we want to portray. But I also want to say this. We have generally the Lions Club. We see what they do at Waters Farm. We see what they do with their funds for eye research. And for them to, at one time, set up at Whittier's Farms, and now not this year for one reason or another, and be sent down to Manchog, but then to have these other vendors come in. My opinion, and my opinion only, but I want to share it with everybody here. I don't want to see people with a vending truck coming in from Charlton or Boston or this or that or everything else. This is Sutton, folks. We usually support the Lions Club and have them, and the local churches with their church supper in St. Mark's and selling pastries and things like that. I don't think it's a place that we want to come in and have all kinds of vendors. And then I'll just reach back one more little minute to alcohol. If someone's given out for a charge of free samples there, just an example, and there's trolleys, what are we gonna do? If we give a permit there, that someone else wants a permit somewhere else, and someone on the other side on trolley C wants an alcohol permit down there, well, after a while, free rides on the trolley and beer in both fists, to me, it doesn't cut the mustard. And I am not happy. And I think that we really have to look at this as a board and do the right thing. Thank you. Next would be the announcements, Selectmen's Roundtable. We'll put them all together in correspondence. Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one thing, actually, I wanted to revisit something that I neglected to mention earlier. Thank you, Jesse, for bringing it up. I want to talk about that smoking thing. It's funny, you had a similar reaction that I did too. And I think the libertarian streak in me came out with this idea that, people over 18, the usual things, right? They can go to war for us or whatever, but we're, I'm not a smoker, support smoking, and yet this felt kind of like what Jesse described as maybe a little bit of an overreach. But to Jesse's point also, what we did here locally was really respond to what was given to us from the state level. And, I understand from a retail perspective that could be a little bit, of a drag really on sales. But I think, from the town's perspective, our reaction was really just relative to what the state was sort of giving to us. And they kind of pushed it through in a hurry, and our opportunity to react was limited in time. And I think they were just sort of doing the best they could within what they had to work with. So I apologize for neglecting to mention that before, but thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Jesse.
I didn't
Thank
mean
you,
that
Mr.
part,
Chairman.
by the way.
That was clever. That was very clever, as usual, though. Yeah, okay, so we got lots to say. First off, happy Hanukkah for those residents who are celebrating the Festival of Lights. I believe today is day 2. Chain of Lights, I was not here during the day, but I was at the Common when the tree lighting happened, and for those people who were present, I guess Santa Claus came to town. I'd like to thank the Sutton Fire Department for finding Santa and not only getting him down to Manchog the night before, but also on Saturday making sure he arrived at the Common while the band was playing, and it was a wonderful evening, that's for sure. I'd also like to send out thanks to both St. Mark's and the First Congregational Church. Apparently, in and around Thanksgiving, both churches got together, the congregations, and gave wonderful donations to the food pantry. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, obviously, MRA, they gave a wonderful donation as well. So thank you to them. And when I did drop off the St. Mark's donation this past Sunday, I happened to be in the food pantry, and I noticed that the food pantry is still running low on basic cleaning supplies. So if you are shopping and you're looking to make a donation, seeing how Christmas is coming up, please grab extra things like shampoo, hand soaps, dish soaps, paper towels, deodorants, laundry soaps, anything cleaning related, because that section of the food pantry is getting pretty bare. And I know those are necessities, and people are very generous with the cereals and the snacks and all the rest, but just a couple of extra bottles here and there will go a long way. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to recap again, Sutton Chain of Lights, one of the best days of the year here in town. Wonderful tradition in my family, and I hope everybody who moves to town takes part in it. Just 2 quick things. The Sutton Police have been very generous and started a donation drive for seniors in need of items. If you visit their Facebook page, there's a list of items they need. Anything else that you could donate, they will certainly find seniors in need. They're partnering up with the Senior Center. So I encourage people to do that. Also, Sutton Animal Hospital is accepting donations of animal food, cat litter, other items, and each week they're donating those items to area shelters. So animals are part of our family too, and so I hope you keep them in mind during the holidays.
Nice.
That's all I have.
Jonathan?
The only thing I have to add is just how happy I am that we have the chain of lights and how my family takes part in that. And my sister comes back from the Cape, and it brings us all back together again. And we, they all go out and enjoy the time, and we volunteer time in our church to help that happen. And I encourage people to get involved and keep that tradition going. So.
Thank you. And I have nothing on that.
So that being the case, Mr. Chairman, could I make a motion to adjourn?
And I'd be happy to second that.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.